Guys, what have we been watching? What have we been witnessing? What has been going on in the world of volleyball? If you don't know, my name is Everett, and today we're going to talk about volleyball. And today, more specifically, we're going to talk about the 2025 Men's Volleyball World Championships, where after the first day, I'm pretty sure everyone's bracket is broken. No one knows what to expect anymore. We've seen ups, we've seen downs, and we've seen upsets galore. We've seen random teams beating teams that we shouldn't expect. We saw Libya win a set. It was absolutely unreal. And so much so that I just had to come on here and talk about it. I had to come on here and talk about it because what else would we be doing? What else would we be doing if not for talking about what we've just witnessed over the past 24 hours from the Philippines, right? 24 hours ago, I was doing my preview. Hopefully, the internet is going to be a little bit better than this time. I had no internet issues last night during the live stream. June, obviously, I know you're gonna say that's the biggest upset, and you can pick that as one of the options. Right now, Libya winning one set versus Canada has 18% of the poll, while Turkey beating Japan 3-1 has 41% of the poll. Personally, I think the Portuguese win over Cuba is a bigger upset, but we're gonna break all of those down. Okay, we're gonna break all of them down. But first and foremost, we have to talk what you guys think about is the number one upset of the night last night, and that is Turkey taking down Japan 3-0. Now, I did think that Japan was going to struggle in this tournament. I did think that they were going to have a harder time without Masahiro Sakita, without Kentaro Takahashi or Yamauchi and Yuji Nishida. But man, oh my goodness, that was not the way I expected it to go for a few reasons. And I mean, Turkey dominated in every way possible. They dominated in literally every single category, and it was wild from the baseline, at the net, offensively, passing. Who would have thought that Turkey would outpass Japan? But that is exactly what happened. Japan looked absolutely abysmal, whereas on the other side of the net, Turkey played what was definitely their best match of the season. No doubt about it. We'll start on the Japanese side. You know, the things that you expect from Japanese volleyball, the things that we've come to know and love from this team: crisp passing, a lightning fast offense that can keep blockers on skates, and a really high efficiency. None of those things were there. None of those things were there. They passed the ball horribly. That may have been the worst serve receive match I've ever seen from Japan. John the Master, you're not wrong. Turkey did out Japan, the Japanese team, and that was the worst passing performance I've ever seen from the Japanese. Only 37% positive and 16% perfect. You'd think I was talking about Canada, but instead I'm talking about Japan. And the worst of it all is that two of their best serve receivers were absolutely abysmal. Ishikawa, 25% positive, only 10% perfect. And Yamamoto, the libero, 27% positive, only 7% perfect. While with Oya running the offense, it just seemed like they were hitting up against two blocks all day long, and Turkey feasted on them. Absolutely feasted on them. Now, I definitely knew that Japan was going to struggle without Masahiro Sakita. He just runs that offense with such a rhythm and with such precision that it's so hard. Like, he is the game changer. He is what makes the difference. And I think people are going to start to see that now, because it was really, really bad for Japan in this one offensively. 16% efficiency on the day, only 36% hitting. It looked really bad. 10 unforced errors overall by Japan, which is absolutely wild. The Weebs are in a free fall. You're right, Aussie Tragic. I actually spent quite a bit today just reading through Reddit threads. It seems that the only time that our volleyball is ready to go is when Japan is losing, and that's exactly what we saw today. Now, I was a little bit wrong in my preview. I didn't think that Japan missing Yuji Nishida would have been that big of a deal, but I think it actually really was. And, you know, even though Kento Miura was their top scorer in this one, he was 11 for 24 with 5 unforced errors that led to only a 17% efficiency. And that's just not good enough. That is absolutely not good enough at the World Championships. And especially for a team like Turkey, who I've said for quite a while now is a team that I've expected to break out. This is a talented team with a lot of quality. And that's exactly what we saw in this one, right? Efe Mandracha was hands down the best player on the court. 5 aces. 5 aces for Efe Mandracha in this one against Japan, but also his passing lights out. He was targeted 18 times, 67% positive, 22% perfect. And this just allowed them to really open up the entirety of their offense. Like Mandracha, even though he wasn't that efficient offensively, he could have been a little bit better. He was 10 for 24 with only a 12% efficiency. He did have those 5 aces and another 2 blocks, but then Addis Lugumja had a huge match, 11 for 25, 3 blocks and an ace. And that shot that he likes to hit, that high OT shot where he brings it from the right all the way back to that like 1-6 seam in the back row, was really, really effective. He was just feasting on the Japanese blockers all day, and it seemed like they were on skates all afternoon. All afternoon. And I also think that you have to give a lot of credit to their setter, Murat Pazar. I thought that he just delivered the ball really, really well. His team hit 46% in hitting and a 30% efficiency, which, while not fantastic, was way more than enough to take down Japan on this day. But he also utilized the middles really well. Right, they were 8 for 13 in total down the middle between Bediran and Matic, and there was just a good spread and a good flow to the offense. We even saw, you know, Mirza Lugumja have to take a little bit of time off in the second set to rehab a little bit injury. No issues there for the younger Lugumja brother. He was all right offensively, 8 for 15 with a 33% efficiency. But you know what? I don't know if it was more how good Turkey was or how bad Japan was. And I honestly think it was a little bit of both. I do think that there was just not enough. There was not enough change in the Japanese roster as well, because Ryan Takahashi proved once again that he is completely unable to hit up against 2 blocks. He was brutal, 4 for 22 in offense with only a 5% efficiency, and he never got subbed out, right? You have Otsuka there, you have Kai out there, and there was no subs whatsoever for Ryan Takahashi, who was struggling. He was passing the ball pretty decent. He was the only one passing the ball decently at all, and had the most targets as well. So maybe that's why Laurent Tilly wanted to keep him out there. 24 targets, he was a 58% positive and a 29% perfect, which is the numbers that we expect for Japan compared to their 37 and 16 as a team. The only area that they were better in was defense, and not even by that much. I think they had 54 digs compared to Turkey's 49. So that disparity was not enough for Japan to really keep going. But for me, it was all about the serving. It was all about Turkey from the baseline. As I mentioned, Efe Mandracha, 5 aces, 5 of his team's 7 aces, on only one ace from Kento Miura in this match. And that's exactly like all of the areas that we expect the Japanese team to be strong in terms of being strong from the baseline, being really solid in serve receive, having a really fast and efficient offense. None of those things were present today for the Japanese team. And as I said, the Weebs are in shambles, because now there is a huge question mark on this team, if this team is A, ready to be there and ready to play against the best teams in the world, or B, if they're even going to make it out of their pool altogether. Now, I will say that this result in general has me, a Canadian fan who is in this pool, a little bit scared for a few reasons. One, first and foremost, Turkey looks good. And it looks like they're finally realizing that they are good. And that is scary. That is really, really scary for a Canadian fan who, this honestly, the last time Turkey looked this good is the last time they beat Canada all the way back at the 2022 World Championships. And they looked really, really good, and they looked really, really scary. So that is going to be bad. But then the other part of that is now this Japanese team is going to look to bounce back. And their next match to bounce back on is against Canada. So that is going to be a really, really tough match if we can't pull out the same type of not result, but the same type of performance as we saw from Japan today. So it was really, really surprising. Now, I'm not necessarily surprised by Turkey winning. I do think that this is a quality team physically as well. They just have the ability to go OT. Like both Mandaracha and Addis Lugumja are so much higher than the Japanese. But it was just so uncharacteristic of Japan, which is why I'm scared for the next matchup, which is why I'm very, very wary for their next matchup against us, because that is going to be a really, really tough matchup, as they're going to want to bear down and be a lot better. While as Turkey, they look good. They look really, really good. Mandaracha is fantastic. I also thought Bayraktar as well made a few huge plays, especially in the first set, just to be able to get things going, just to be able to have the momentum for his team. I thought that Bayraktar was really, really good. And overall, I think that Slobodan Kovac and the rest of his team should be so, so proud of how they played. They really put themselves on the map, and they really put themselves as well in a really, really good spot to be able to move on. So it was a very interesting match. I did go back and watch all of them. None of these matches I watched live, obviously, except for the Canada match, because they were in the middle of the night. But I have spent my entire day going back and watching them, just so we can sit here and talk about it. And after I watched it, I knew we had to come on. All right. So match number one that we had to talk about, Turkey 3-0 over Japan, getting a big 3 points. And we're also potentially setting up like a potential three-way tie. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to think that, Japan could beat Canada, Canada could beat Turkey. Everyone beats Libya. Even though we are going to talk about Libya a little bit later, I won't call it an upset, but man, Libya they can actually ball. They could actually ball. I mean, they do have a guy who played for Modena last year that I just wasn't aware of. But it was interesting. A lot of people still thinking that Japan's going to get out, but I don't know. I really don't know. All right. So moving on to the next match that I want to talk about. I actually think that this matchup was the biggest upset of the day. Because you know what, there's like both Turkey and Japan are VNL teams. Turkey is a really, really good team, and their 3-9 record in the VNL, I don't think it actually shows how good they are, right? And we know how good they are at the club level, and we've seen these players be able to compete at the highest of levels in the Superliga, in the FIVB, so on and so forth. But when talking about Portugal, they've got one quality player. They've got one player that we actually know about in Miguel Tavares, the man right there on the screen. Whereas Cuba, I have Cuba going all the way to the semis. I have Cuba going all the way to the semis. I thought that this was going to be their tournament to be able to turn on. And there was a few things that I noticed. A, they did dominate that first set in perfect Cuban fashion. They dominated the first set, but then as soon as things got easy, that's when they started to break down, and that's when they started to mess things up a little bit. And you have to give a lot of credit to Portugal on their side, mostly due to one man and one man only, the man flexing in the thumbnail, Marquez. Oh my goodness, what is his first name? Why don't we have first names here Why is it so hard to find first names in volleyball? But I was expecting to see a lot of Alexander Ferreira, but we didn't even see him. We didn't even see him in this match. It was all Marquez. He had four in the first, and then just really, really opened things up. He had 3 in the second. He had 7 in the third. And how many did he have in the fourth here? And then another 5 in the fourth. And really, Portugal just played a super solid game. They passed the ball pretty well, 47% positive, 28% perfect, and they hit the ball exceptionally well. And it just goes to show how important it is to have a proper setter on your team. As you know, it's not every day that you see a team like Portugal go out and hit a 40% efficiency in a match. Nuno Marquez is his name. 15 for 23 with a 61% efficiency. He was only blocked once, no unforced errors. He also had 2 blocks and 2 aces while getting targeted 18 times for 39% positive and a 28% perfect. Overall, it was just Cuba really started to slow down in this one. They started to be Cuba. They started to not care at all. Miguel Lopez was really bad. Well, okay, I'm not going to say he was really bad. He was 1 for 26 in attacking, but he got blocked 5 times. Marlon Yant, as expected, has continued his fantastic play with going 15 for 31 with 2 unforced errors and a 42% efficiency with 2 blocks and 2 aces. But Cuba also missing 18 serves in this one and making another 7 hitting errors. So when you give away 25 points just like that in unforced errors, that is a lot. That was a lot for Cuba, and you could tell that they just couldn't get it going. They just couldn't get it going, and they were typical Cuba and turned things off. And for me, one of the big things was they started Thorndike instead of Julio Gomez. I thought Gomez was going to be the guy after what we saw from Cuba in the VNL, but instead they went with Thorndike, and it really seemed to stutter their offense. It really seemed to slow some things down. And, you know, for a team like Cuba, who they need to beat the U.S. now, right? Cuba absolutely needs to beat the U.S. And Colombia as well. Although I think that one should be a bit of an easy one because if they don't beat the U.S., they're done. They're not even making it out of this pool, and they lost a lot of points, of world ranking points from this one as well. So big ups to Portugal. They looked fantastic out there. It was fully a team effort in this one. We'll go through some of the stats. Philip on the right side. Was he on the right side? No, he wasn't. That was the other on the other. Sorry, Pinto is the opposite. He was pretty good, going 11 for 21 with 3 blocks. 11 blocks for Portugal in this one. And a lot of it, like, I think they're a decent blocking team. Like, they were getting hands in front, and they were, you know, reading Thorndike's offense pretty easily. But also, Cuba just swinging into the block all day long. And John the Master saying, hot take, Portugal will take the first spot in Pool D. I'm going to disagree with that a little bit. I think the U.S. should be more than capable of getting the job done, especially with the way that Michael Christensen played last night. But damn, this does put Cuba in a really, really tough spot. And I will have to say, a certain favorite Cuban of ours has been MIA in the Discord and in the chat so far after last night's performance. So if anyone wants to go do like a mental health check on Ronnie Cuban Spike just to see how he's doing, that would be great. That would be great if anyone's in Spain and could go knock on his door and see how he's doing. I tagged him a few times in the Discord. Didn't get anything back from Ronnie. So Ronnie, we just want you to know we still love you. We support you through this tough time. And And yeah, that was a very, very, very surprising result here for Portugal in this matchup. All right. Moving forward to what was, I'm not going to call this an upset, but also a really big result, a massive result, all thanks to that man there, given the fist pump. Man, Alex Nikolov is the truth. This one was a back and forth match in the first set. Really, Bulgaria kept Germany in this match in the first set with their errors. And if it wasn't for Bulgaria making so many errors in the first set from the baseline, they made 14 serving errors in the first set alone, did Bulgaria, but still they were able to clutch it out with a 40-38 win, all on the back of Alex Nikolov's 15 points in the first. He was 14 for 23 with a block in the first set alone. And as Grosjean said after the match, if that first set had gone a little bit differently, I think it would have been a different match altogether. And at one point, it was 17-11 in favor of Bulgaria. Germany stormed all the way back, fought back to be able to tie it up. They were spreading the offense really nicely in the first, using all of those Bulgarian errors to their advantage. Grosjean had 5 in the first. Bremer had 5. Tobias Brand had 6. But even though they had 7 or 8, no, way more than that. I think it was at one point they had 8 or 9, maybe even 10 set points. They were unable to close it out, unable to be clutch. And then after that, everything just started to crumble around Germany. Whereas Bulgaria was making all of the errors in set number 1, they tightened things up really, really well in set number 2, whereas Germany didn't, right? Only one unforced error for Bulgaria in set number 1 compared to Germany's 10. And their offense actually wasn't too bad. They were 18 for 24 with a 75% hitting and a 62% kill efficiency in set number 1, but seven missed serves from the baseline just really killed things for Germany in set number 2, whereas Bulgaria just really opened things up. Their serve receive was terrible in set number 2, only 12% positive, 6% perfect. But when you have Alex Nikolov playing the way that he did, actually, it was a little bit of everyone in the second set. They spread that out. Moni, 3 for 3 with an ace in attacking in the second. Alex was 3 for 6 with a 33% efficiency in the second. And Tanisov had 3. Asparuhov had 3 as well. With the two of it was Antanasov and Alex Nikolov on the left side, and then Asparuhov was actually playing as technically the opposite. But they just really started to flow and have some fun. And then set number 3, it really, really opened things up with Ilya Petkov throwing down 3 blocks in a row. And for some reason on the stats, they don't have his blocks here, which I think is a damn shame because he was really, really big. And the Bulgarian block in that third set, no blocks in the second, 5 in the third. And it really just allowed this team to open things up. Once again, their offense was pretty good in the third, 13 for 25 with a 44% efficiency as a team. That was massive. It was massive for this Bulgarian team. And June, I think you're absolutely right there in the chat. And Tanisov and Asparagus, Asparuhov being clutch was actually one of the biggest things, and that to me was hands down the best match we've seen from Bulgaria all summer long. Just a really, really big match for Bulgaria, and this is it's going to be a really tough pool for them to get out. Why is it like that? Why, when you on the Volley Station, I love you guys, but why don't we have the different pools? Why is it 1 to 32? when looking at the stats. But Germany is now in a really, really tough place. They're gonna have to rebound and play against Chile before they take on Slovenia. But Slovenia missing some of their guys. This is another pool in Pool E that we could see a little bit of a triangle situation. So Germany really, really needs to pull up their socks a little bit when they take on Slovenia in this next one. But Bulgaria getting out, despite that first set, getting out with a clean 3-0 win, a clean 3-dong, a clean 3 points is absolutely massive and cannot be understated. I think it would take a really big disaster for them not to move on now, because all they need to be able to do is to beat Chile, and that would be huge. So big ups to Bulgaria. That man right there, Alex Nikolov, was absolutely unreal. Actually, what did he do? What did he do on the match here? I know he had 15 in the first, but Alex Nikolov on the match, 28. Ooh! Woo! That is gross. 25 for 47 with a 40% efficiency. He had 2 blocks and an ace. Unreal by Alex Nikolov. Everyone in the Discord was telling me that it was an Alex Nikolov masterpiece, and that's exactly what it was. The elder Nikolov out there to ball, and Moni, 9 points as well, 7 for 8 attacking with 1 unforced error and 2 aces. I don't know. People were saying that it wasn't like it was looking like he wasn't looking good, and that Blangini was pulling him out. But Moni might have had his best match of the summer. Big ups for all Bulgaria. That is a massive win for them. And as long as they can take care against Chile, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. All right. Those are the 3 big results that you guys need to know about in terms of upsets. We'll talk about, of course, the U.S. just briefly. They got a nice little 3-dong against Colombia. It was never really in jeopardy. Ethan Champlin was unreal, 12 for 21 with a 48% efficiency, 2 blocks and 3 aces for Champlin for leading for a team high 17 points. And yeah, really, really good job overall by the U.S. No, he was. There is no Johannes Thiele here for Germany. I guess we can talk about Germany a little bit. I'm just so jacked up on Bulgaria right now, but they did struggle. They did struggle. Grozier not having a great match offensively. He was pretty bad, 7 for 21 with only a 10% efficiency. The rest of the team offensively really, really wasn't that bad, but where they struggled, actually, never mind. Tobias Brand, 8 for 9 with a 16% efficiency. How did Eric Roars do? Eric Roars, 8 for 21 with a 24% efficiency. Not fantastic, but for me, it's all from the struggles from the baseline. 17 missed serves in just 3 sets for Germany. That's really, really tough. That is really, really tough for Germany, and their offense just looked a little basic, right? Jan Zimmerman running it. He ended up getting subbed out, and they started with Bergeraff in the third, and that's kind of when things started going to downhill. That's when Bulgaria's block really, really started to pick up on everything for Germany. So, but like I said, they do still have a chance if they can if they can beat Slovenia. It'll be a tough one, but it is a little still doable. As we mentioned, the U.S. with a really solid 3-0 win over Colombia, just to get the legs moving under them nicely. It worked really well. People talking about why didn't Cooper Robinson start? I think that for this one, maybe they were going for, a little bit of a different look for Team USA, but it looks like right away, Micah Christensen really settling in well with the young roster. 51% hitting as a team, 41% efficiency as well. The U.S. looked pretty good, and we'll follow how they are throughout the rest of the tournament. Now that they've taken down their easy match, they still have to take on Cuba, which I think will be a huge matchup, and now Portugal, who look way more deadly than we expect them. Okay? Now, for the last one, of course, I have to talk about my team, Canada, and I don't know, man. That this match had me. This match had me really, really nervous. This one was a really tough one to watch. I was expecting an easy 3-dong, and I do have to say, really big ups to Libya. Truly, like, they surprised the shit out of me. They were a lot better than I would have expected, and honestly, it's all because of the two brothers, the Albayri brothers, Ahmed and Mohammed. Mohammed on the back of his jersey actually goes by Abu Lababa. He had 17. He was 16 for 26 in attacking with a 38% efficiency. Ahmed, who actually backed up Buchkeger this year for Modena, was similar. He was 15 for 38, only a 11% efficiency as he struggled with some unforced errors, but also had a block and an ace. But that first set from Libya, I mean, it's clear that Canada had no tape on them whatsoever as Ahmed lit them up with 7 points. He was 6 for 10 in attacking. And they were really, really good. They were really, really good in the first, but then they started to slow down. That third set was all Canada, but then they really picked things back up. And I'm a little worried. I won't lie. I'm a little bit worried. Now, I'm really hoping that it was just first match jitters. We got them out, but especially on serve receive, Canada did not look great. Now, I don't expect that they were expecting the heat that Libya was able to bring, only 39% positive and a 17% perfect, but still overall, Canada really struggled. Finn McCarthy, I thought, was outstanding. He had six aces. He started the match pretty poorly with like a couple of one bad rotation right at the beginning, but it was a little bit difficult for Team Canada out there, but we did see the return of the one and only Mr. Schwan, Vernon Evans. Shout out to G Volley for the asset that stole it from your Instagram, G. I saw you in the comments a little bit earlier, so shout out to you. Schwan was actually pretty good in this first one. 16 for 29 and attacking, a 38% efficiency, 3 blocks and 3 aces. He had a few absolute clamps in this one that were a lot of fun to watch. And overall, I'm glad that we got out with the win, but man, was it tough to watch. Going down, Dane and Jimma, also pretty good. Kofi Kid, 7 for 12 in attacking, no errors, a 58% efficiency, also with 4 blocks and aces. Canada really serving well in this one. 15 aces to 16 errors, and those errors are also another thing that kept Canada or kept Libya in it, especially in that last set. And big ups to Jackson Young, who came in off the bench during the second, and he had 6 points in the fourth, 4 for 8, and a massive block and an ace all the way at the end. Really big ups for Jackson Young. Love seeing the way that he was able to come out there and ball and use a little bit of Canada's depth. Isaac Heslinga kind of struggled throughout the first 2 sets, especially without Brody Hofer there, and also no Skylar Varga. Canada's going to be a little bit skinny on the left side. But luckily, we did also see the return of Captain Canada, Mr. Nick Ogue, the one and only, and he dropped 20 points. I didn't think it was his best match. You could see that he was trying to get himself pumped up, and there's a few lapses in serve receive, but ultimately not too bad. He was targeted the most with 23 targets, and he had passed a 58 and a 22 while hitting 15 for 28 with a 32% efficiency. Overall, not that terrible for Team Canada. A solid win. I do think that just getting the full 3 points and not allowing it go to 5 was a huge thing. Losing that one set may hurt us depending on how the sets, the set ratio ends at the end of the day. And yeah, I think, sorry. I think that people in the chat are also being like, is it worth not having Xander out there? I think we need to give Show a little bit of slack, and we need to give him a little bit run. He needs to remember how to play international ball, and I think that this match was the perfect opportunity for Canada to be able to do that as they get ready for Japan in the next match, and that will be the big one, because I think that there's even though we didn't play great in this one, I think that there's a huge chance, especially with Show knowing those Japanese guys so well, knowing how to play them against them so well. I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup, and there's no doubt that on Sunday night, Monday morning, I'll be staying up to watch that one overall. Okay, and yeah. I think that's it. This is just going to be a nice little quick little update. Well, a quick little update. That's what, like half an hour or so, almost 40 minutes. Does anyone in the chat have any questions? June, I'm pretty sure I said never say never, but I wouldn't expect to see Shawan in a national team jersey. But I also said earlier this summer that the return, I said last year when Dane and Gemma and Kofi returned, that if there was ever a time, it would be to play with Kofi and play with his boy. And then I also said, once Dan Lewis started coaching this team again, that there may be a chance for Shawan to come back, because there was always a good chemistry between those guys. And Dan was always a little bit more understanding, let's say, than some of the old guard who were so focused on making volleyball, Canada a volleyball country, that sometimes they may forget that some of these people are people. And, that's why Dan has talked a lot about this year, that's why guys like Sclater only wanted to play Quebec City and Chicago, because he's a dad now and wanted to spend time with his family. That's why Lepke and Mar and Demyanenko and these other guys decided not to play, and that was perfectly okay for Dan Lewis, and we'll keep the door open for them in the future, just because they're parents now and they're fathers, and you know what? As important as volleyball is, parenthood comes first. And I think that Dan has a great mix of understanding how important the volleyball is and what's needed to be done to win at the high level, but then also what it means to be, a family man and a family person. So, I think that this was a huge win for Team Canada. Now I'm going to pull up to see here what are some of the matches coming up tonight in the, I guess, prime time, if you want to call that prime time spot. Prime time for me anyways, early in Asia. Argentina and Finland. I'll probably tune into that one. I don't think I'll do a live stream. Iran versus Egypt, I think, will be a really, really interesting one. We'll see how Iran does without Amin. We'll see how Egypt does without Reda Haikal and their captain. And then I think the big one today, or actually I think you've got a couple of big ones. Ukraine, Belgium later today, I think, is going to be really, really spicy. That one's going on at 2 a.m. Eastern time. And then Serbia, Czechia at 5:30 a.m. Eastern time should be really, really fun. And then Brazil, China. Maybe I'll get up and do a nice little live stream for Brazil, China, just because that one was a fun little matchup when we saw them in Chicago, and I think it could be again as well too. I did watch the Slovenia match. It's hard to tell against a team like Chile. Chile just doesn't have the firepower, but we did see Nik Mujanovic on the left side, so they are rocking Nik Mujanovic and Tonček Stern, who are their two best attackers, especially now with the Rock Mosic out. So, yeah, I think Slovenia is going to be a really interesting team to play when they take on Bulgaria in 2 days' time. Okay? Timothy Ebbs, no Plotnitsky for Ukraine. He has completely retired from the national team and is not a member of their team altogether, but they do have a few other nice pieces. Absolutely. Okay. So I will probably be live, tomorrow morning for Brazil versus China. And then we'll see where we go from there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you all soon. All right? Have a good night.